Welcome to the Latino podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and our Latino communities with legal, political, and community leaders and visionaries. Let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of the Lawtino podcast. I'm your host, John Gomez. I'm here with my co-host, Jessica Lujan. This program is brought to you by Gomez Trial Attorneys, a national Latino owned and operated personal injury, civil rights, and employment litigation firm. Today, we have kind of a special program for you. Jessica, who has herself been interviewed by me, will today act as the host and will, in fact, interview me back. So I'm going to turn it over to our host, Jessica Lujan.
Thanks, John. So now it's my turn to torture you with some questions. Just kidding, not torturous. But I just thought, people are listening to these podcasts. They're sponsored by GTA. You're the CEO and founder of GTA. So people are going to want to know who you are. So that's what today is about. And let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Growing up, how is it that you became interested in the law?
Yeah, so my dad was in the Navy, and so I was a Navy brat. I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia, which is, there's a big naval hub kind of around there. And so I was born in Portsmouth Naval Hospital. The family, we moved out here to San Diego, which is also a large kind of naval, place.
Yeah.
And then back to Georgia, down to Florida for a little bit, back to Virginia, and then back out here where my dad basically he retired from the Navy. So I lived in San Diego since I was like 11.
Wow. That's a lot of moving around.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, growing up, if your parents are like deployed. Like my dad would go on a lot of cruises, so they'd be gone for like 12, 14, 16 months, which, is hard. But, you get to learn, you get to meet a lot of people.
Yeah. So you, since a young age, you kind of become used to meeting people from all sorts of backgrounds and just being flexible and learn how to interact with individuals who might not be, like yourself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even so, like my parents split up then when I was like 12. And so then I was just living with my mom, who was a single mom, and we would bounce around a lot just within San Diego. And so changed a lot. I went to 3 different high schools.
Wow.
All of them like pretty different, sort of ethnically and culturally. So yeah, I got to meet a lot of different kinds of people.
Yeah. And what part of San Diego?
First, we were down in South Bay, so Chula Vista. I went to Hilltop Junior High School, and then we went to Spring Valley, Lemon Grove, Mount Miguel High School, and then I graduated from El Cajon Valley High School here in town. Okay.
And how do you think that impacted, your life and the things that you wanted to do growing up? I mean, were you, excited to get out of San Diego? What were your aspirations?
Honestly, like at the time I graduated from high school, all I wanted to do is play college football. So I didn't have great, aspirations beyond that. And I got hurt as a high school senior. And so basically limped around, like I missed first couple of games and I limped around for the rest of the season. And so I started at junior college, Grossmont Junior College, playing football there. And then, I went over to San Diego State to play football. I got hurt during spring football. And then I learned that there was a school called USD, the University of San Diego, that had a football team. I didn't know this, all respect to the Toreros now. So I went over there, and that's where I finished up and played football.
Okay. And then you finished up, you played football, and what were your plans after that?
I didn't really know I was going to be a businessman of some kind, I just wanted to, do okay and stuff. I'd studied business But I had a roommate before my senior year of college who was in law school. So this guy's name is Mike Antonaccio. He's a very well-known, well-regarded lawyer today with Cooley. He was my roommate, and he was working at a law firm as a summer associate at the time. And he would come home, he was making a lot of money from my perspective, and had a pretty good life. They treat him pretty good. They would have all these activities. We were on the softball team. And so I just looked at that and I go, oh, wow, that looks like a good life right there. And so I emulated my friend, Mike, who at the time was going to Stanford Law School, and decided that I would try to, take the LSAT and apply to different law schools. Just
from one day to the next, you're just, this is what I'm going to do.
I just got lucky. I feel like, being a lawyer is probably my highest calling. I don't think I could do anything as good as what I do now. And so I feel like for whatever reason, God kind of showed me that path in a weird way. So I'm grateful for that.
It's amazing. I mean, a lot of people who end up at Yale Law School, I'm sure, planned for it for a very, very long time. They had mentors, they had guidance. You don't get to Yale Law School just, on a whim. So how do you feel about that? I mean, it's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, I feel, I feel like for whatever reason, I had done well in college. I played football, obviously, all through, did well academically. And then, I took the LSAT. I didn't have enough money for a course, but I would just take, practice test. And I remember I was scoring at a pretty good, level. And so kind of thought I knew where I would get in. And so then I show up, I do the actual test, and I was working that summer as a waiter when I got it was in the mail, I got my results.
Okay.
And so I went out to this, I was working kind of by the beach. So we went out to these rocks, me and a young lady that I was working with. We were going to open it together. And I had a bottle of tequila and a bottle of bourbon. And I was either going to celebrate or be sad. And I opened it and I did really, really well. The best I'd ever done. And then I knew I could go wherever I wanted. So we had tequila.
I was going to say, okay, was it tequila for celebrating? That makes sense.
We had tequila. And the funny thing is, like you said, a lot of these kids have mentors or whatever. I was so naive that I did not know they ranked the law schools. Yeah. And so I asked my buddy from Stanford where I should go. And he told me, for whatever reason, he told me to go to Harvard.
Okay.
So I accepted to Harvard because I got in there. And then I ran into this kid over at my college, USD, who had a U.S. News and World Report ranking, of the law schools. Yeah. And I looked at it, and Harvard was 8 that year or whatever. And Yale was 1. And I was like, wait, I got into Yale. And so then I found out they had an admitted college weekend. And so I went back and then I reneged they told me, you got to come here. And so I reneged on Harvard and went to Yale.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I love that. I mean, you talk about, just how naive you were. And I personally, I feel the same way. A lot of things in my life, I feel they just happened because they were meant to be. So do you share that sentiment and, just that naivete, but just kind of trusting the process, and it's led you to where you are?
Yeah, very much. I feel like, God put me through some rough things at various points in my life. But at the same time, he put really nice things in front of me. Yeah. And I feel like, it's kind of his hand kind of working on me in my life. And so you just got to have faith and that it's all going to turn out good.
Yeah. Yeah, it has, for sure.
Yeah, so far.
So you're now CEO of Gomez Trial Attorneys. And I mean, sometimes just listening to your stories at the all hands meetings, or when you talk about all these, cases you've had, and do you have some favorite stories, some favorite cases, just, something that sticks out that you're just like, wow, I did that in my career?
Yeah, I think, I have a number of, good memories from work that I've done and we've done here. I think we represented the family of a runaway Lexus that happened here in San Diego with a CHP officer and his family. And, that case really started this big Toyota recall. Yeah. It was a very big deal, very international news coverage, national, we went to Congress for testimony. And so, handling that case is definitely a highlight. Also just a great family. We tried to verdict one of the very first defective hip cases in the country. There were like 50,000 of these cases, and our client was dying, so we filed a preference motion, and we were able to move his case to the front of the line. Tried that case. That was a hugely important case. And, just had a lot of, good, meaningful results as part of the work we've done here.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking about a hip case that potentially could have impacted and affected 50,000 people who were part of that class. So
yeah, I think it was helpful to settling, a lot of those cases.
Yeah. And it's not just in San Diego. I remember when I started here, you had just finished a trial in a different state, I believe Washington, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
So, I quickly learned you don't just do cases here. You really are all over the nation. So a nationwide, lawyer. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. My background, like we talked about, I went to Yale, which is a national, law school, obviously. I worked at Latino Watkins, very large national firm. I was a federal prosecutor. And so, my practice has always been, national in nature. A lot of the cases we do just happen to be here in California, but, we'll go try a good case anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's what I knew about John Gomez when I first started, working here. And when I was in law school, I always heard the name John Gomez, since I went to a local law school. The first time I ever got to meet you was at a La Raza event. So, not just are you a national leader in law, but you are also very involved with the Hispanic community. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, my dad's family is from Mexico. A lot of them still live there. And I think that in our evolving Latino communities, there are so many different kind of flavors, and, you got first generation, you got second generation, you got half, you got people from different parts of the world. But, for me, and especially growing up here, it was always a big part of my culture and self-identity. And so once I got into, when I went to Yale, I was president of, we called it LASA, I think a Latino Law Students Association.
Okay.
And over there we would mainly hammer on administration for admissions. Like that's really what we're trying to do. Like we'd always be like, oh, you gotta let more, of our people in, and we'd hang out with the balsa. There was balsa there too. So we would try and get like the Black and the Latino students admitted, like we'd be, and probably sometimes, as a student, like, I don't know if you're just more militant or more like, but like we're pretty militant about those issues, and then I came out here and, had success as a lawyer. And I feel like there have been times, where arguably, like I was the most successful trial lawyer in town in this pretty large community with a super successful law firm. And, because of that in particular, and importantly, like I wanted to make a mark, for our community and in our community, like really be a leader, in that community to kind of, shine excellence upon the work that we all do.
Yeah. I mean, it's evident, and clearly you haven't stopped. So you have this podcast now, the Lawtino podcast. Tell us about it. Why? What's the purpose? Why is it important to you?
I think I've always been very interested in justice generally in all of its forms. And I've always had a very soft place in my heart for the underdog, and, communities and people that face particular struggles. And so I have that. And then I'm also very interested just in the law. And so you see basically right now, Latino communities and people, I say, are by far the fastest growing, community here in our country. And so, like, how is the law going to keep up with that? How is the law going to accommodate that? How is the law going to change because of that? You've seen, I think, a good case study, probably you could say, historically has been the Black community has had a lot of, there was the civil rights movement largely, started by a lot of people on the wall up here, Black civil rights leaders and justice leaders and Supreme Court justices, and so you see the evolution of the law, the change of the law, and then you see that how that bleeds over into maybe just civil rights issues generally, maybe police excessive force or policing cases, disparate treatment cases. And so now, I think we have kind of a more, I'll say, maturing of the Latino community. We're kind of stepping into our own, right?
Yeah.
We're really, especially in certain parts of the country, like by far, the most powerful future sort of component of a lot of different places. So how's the law going to keep up? How's the law going to adjust? Like, are we going to see more and more legislators, in power, more and more, lawyers in positions of power or influence? Right. And so still, like, it really, especially in the law, it super drags behind. Like the prevalence of Latinos in the law is nowhere near, the number of Latinos in our communities.
Oh, of course.
And so, like, a lot of the work you're doing right now, like when I was a young militant guy, and I continue to support the fight and the cause, is really to increase that diversity of representation in the judiciary and like in like elite legal services.
Yeah, I mean, and it shows. So, GTA, tell us a little bit about the demographics here. What things are important to you? I mean, I walk around and there's people from all sorts of backgrounds, so you don't see that everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, to me, we are basically a consumer rights law firm, so we're dealing with consumers. Yeah. And so, like here in California, where we do a lot of our work, a huge part of that community is Latinos. So, we will kind of shamelessly encourage or recruit or build our team to best and most effectively serve that community, both language and culture wise, which you talked about during your interview.
Yeah.
And so, like, that is important. It's important to me to have gender diversity, like, across the board, especially in our lawyers. And it's important, to have as much representation of as many communities as we can possibly have, because that's really, most reflective of the community that we serve.
Yeah. I mean, and I can attest to that. So, I'm very grateful to work at GTA where there are women in leadership positions and, we're able to serve our clientele to the best of our abilities. And with that, there's also the community service aspect of it. So, at GTA, one of our core values is we improve our communities. You're very involved in communities of people of color. I mean, you host events. We recently hosted the Dolores Huerta event. Tell us a little bit about your involvement. Tell us why, events like the Dolores Huerta event are important to you.
Yeah, I feel like why do we do what we do? I think we do what we do to help improve the lives of the clients that we work for. But as importantly to me, why we do what we do is to kind of leave a legacy or make an impact upon, our team members here internally, the community as a whole, non-clients in the community, And so if we host someone like Dolores Huerta, like people were inspired by that. Like people were like, it was like the Beatles came, you know? And so you could see on people's faces, like it changed their life.
Yeah. It was a last minute thing. And we ran home and changed because we wanted to be presentable for Dolores. She's
but
such
I
a
think
big
like
icon.
there's probably lawyers and non-lawyers that attended and met her that like changed their commitment to doing good things because of that.
Absolutely.
And so anytime we can affect change like that, like make an influence, make a splash, like really make a splash influence to where it's not just what we do, but it's like this ripple effect, then we always want to be doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're so creative. I mean, the ideas you come up with. And I mean, recently you sent an email that we're in TJ. So tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I was shocked, but it's exciting. It's awesome. So what's the purpose with that? And
yeah, so, we are here in San Diego, like at one of the busiest international ports of entry in the world. And so we have like our sort of Tijuana, San Diego, larger metropolis is really a combined community.
Yeah.
And there's a huge number, as you know, of people that cross every day, coming up here for work or for school. We have like people that work here but live there. And so, we want to be in a position to provide service to that part of our community as well. And so, we do have, a presence down in Mexico really for, just client ease and convenience, like if they're down there, we have a place they can go, but we want them to know that if they come up here and something happens to them, that we can help them as American lawyers, that they know where to look.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's great because I don't think anyone else really does it. And I think it just shows how invested you are and how much you really do care about the community. And you understand what it's like to live in a border town, right? I'm from a border town, Ciudad Juarez, and the dynamics are just so different than any other city. So I think that's really great. Talking about, different cities and states, and we're going to be traveling to Texas, as a matter of fact, next week to attend the Shades of Mass. So tell us a little bit about that. You're going to be a speaker there. You're going to give a presentation and you're on the board. I know it's very, very important to you. So I think our audience should know about it.
Yeah. So Shades of Mass is an organization that was started by a couple really great lawyers, Ben Crump being one of them, and our friend Fu, who we're going to hang out with in Texas, being another. And basically the premise is they have these multi-district litigations, these mass tort, these high-level sort of litigations. And historically, the leadership of those like massive important cases has been very disproportionately white male. Yeah. And so the intent of Shades of Mass being mass tort, shades being people of color, is to get, Black and brown lawyers into positions of leadership within those large litigations. Because the numbers, again, are just not at all even remotely reflective of the reality of the communities we live in. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these big litigations, are a lot of the clients within those are people of color. Yeah. Some of these, like drugs in particular, will adversely affect, those communities. And so I think it's a super valuable, innovative, important movement. Like for us, we did like a little local thing here. Yeah. We called it Shades of Success, because I think it is beyond just mass torts, to us. Right. Really, it should be within every community and every sort of, legal position. Like there should be, more partners at large law firms or more, leading trial lawyers or whatever it may be. Like, we should be front and center.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that. And Shades of Success was highly successful.
Yeah, it was
no pun
cool.
intended. It was a lot of fun. And you plan to continue it, right?
Yeah, I think the ideas we're going to do, and while we're back in Houston, maybe we can talk to some of our colleagues and have them do something similar within their communities.
Yeah.
But the idea is to do at least annual and probably biannual programs where we're really just bringing that community together, law students, lawyers, judges, and leaders, to really promote excellence and mentoring within those particular communities.
That's great. I mean, it's so important. And, having been part of Shades of Success, I saw the law students who are here, the young attorneys who are here. They're so impressionable. They're so excited. They're, just excited for the future. You're a huge role model to so many people, and so many people look up to you, know who you are, etc. What message would you share with, young law students of color, young first-year attorneys, second-year attorneys of color who are just trying to make their way through what admittedly is, a community that looks different from us?
Yeah, I think, first piece of advice would be, reach out to people you respect in the community. For the most part, those people are going to be excited to talk to you and to help you and to support you. So I would reach out, for that guidance. I was never super good at that as a younger person. I was like a little probably dysfunctional, because of like some chips on my shoulder, but, now I recognize the importance of that. And then I would just say also just be better than everybody else, like outwork everybody else, commit yourself to excellence. Because what can they say if you're the best, right? I mean,
absolutely.
And without question, there are young law students and lawyers within every single community you can name that have the ability to be the best.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. So here we are, we have a podcast. We're going to continue the podcast. What can you tell the audience about, sneak peek into other people you're going to interview? Who can we expect? What can we expect from the podcast?
Yeah, so great question. I think I want to have a lot of lawyers on, and, lawyers from within our community. So people like the leaders of the Hispanic National Bar Association, which is, such a larger, more culturally diverse, and politically diverse, group than maybe we have. You can look around, you can go to a La Raza event here in town, and a very large number of those people might be of Mexican American or Mexican descent, right. But you go over to Miami, right?
Totally different.
And of all hugely South American, Cuban, very Republican. And so within the larger tent of that national community, how do you navigate that as someone running the Hispanic National Bar? I would like to talk to lawyers that are active in things like the United Farm Workers, California Rural Legal Assistance, labor unions, like we were just talking about that, those kinds of change agents. I think legislators, because that's law, I would like to have a lot of those folks on. And then, just great lawyers, really good, inspiring lawyers.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have, I'm hopeful that we can build up enough, catalog that I can get someone like Ben Crump on, who really, has been a change agent for law as it impacts his community and beyond, and so kind of take that as a role model for us, about maybe some lessons that he's learned. So I think it's going to be good.
Absolutely.
I think we're going to have some good people on here.
Very, very exciting. Any closing remarks?
Well, I'd just like to thank you for being such a great member of the firm, for being a leader within our community here. You've just really stepped up as an excellent lawyer and as a leader, within our kind of San Diego and larger legal and Latino communities. So I would suspect, and it's true that there's a lot of these young lawyers that are looking up to you right now. And I know, like, I went to your wedding recently.
Yeah.
So you're like in a new fun marriage. You got a great daughter. You're a great mom. So my closing remarks are all directed with gratitude to you for being my co-host, for going out to Houston with me next week.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
And for being a Notre Dame graduate, where I'd love to get one of my kids in one day, please.
Okay, noted.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, John. It's fun. We do the good work, so can't complain.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone, for another amazing episode of the Lawtino podcast, where we discuss the intersection of law and the Latino communities. Look forward to our next episode. Please subscribe and share with your friends. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Latino podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.